Lyman Louis Lemnitzer, August 29, 1899 to November 12, 1988, was a United States Army general who served as chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff from 1960 to 1962. He then served as Supreme Allied Commander Europe of NATO from 1963 to 1969. Lemnitzer was born on August 29, 1899 in Honesdale, Pennsylvania. He was raised Lutheran and graduated from Honesdale High School in 1917. He then entered the United States Military Academy at West Point, from which he graduated in 1920 with a commission as a second lieutenant in the United States Army Coast Artillery Corps. Lemnitzer graduated from the Coast Artillery School in 1921, and then served at Fort Adams in Rhode Island and in the Philippines. He was an instructor at West Point from 1926 to 1930. Lemnitzer served again in the Philippines from 1934 to 1935, and graduated from the United States Army Command and General Staff College in 1936. He was an instructor at the Coast Artillery School, and graduated from the United States Army War College in 1940. At the start of World War II, Lemnitzer served with the 70th Coast Artillery Regiment and then the 38th Coast Artillery Brigade. In May 1941, Lemnitzer, then a colonel, was assigned to the War Plans Division of the Army Staff, and then to the staff of the Army Ground Forces. Lemnitzer was promoted to Brigadier General in June 1942 and commanded the 34th Coast Artillery Brigade. He was subsequently assigned to General Dwight D. Eisenhower's staff, where he helped plan the invasions of North Africa and Sicily, and was promoted to Major General in November 1944. Lemnitzer was one of the senior officers sent to negotiate the Italian fascist surrender during the secret Operation Sunrise and the German surrender in 1945. Following the end of World War II, Lemnitzer was assigned to the Strategic Survey Committee of the Joint Chiefs of Staff and was later named Deputy Commandant of the National War College. In 1950, at the age of 51, Lemnitzer took parachute training and was placed in command of the 11th Airborne Division. He was assigned to Korea in command of the 7th Infantry Division in November 1951 and was promoted to Lieutenant General in August 1952. Lemnitzer was promoted to the rank of general and named commander of U.S. Army forces in the Far East and of the 8th Army in March 1955. He was named Chief of Staff of the United States Army in July 1957 and appointed Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff in September 1960. As chairman, Lemnitzer was involved in the Bay of Pigs crisis and the early years of United States involvement in the Vietnam War. He was also required to testify before the United States Senate Foreign Affairs Committee about his knowledge of the activities of Major General Edwin Walker, who had been dismissed from the Army over alleged attempts to promote his political beliefs in the military. Lemnitzer approved the plans known as Operation Northwoods in 1962, a proposed plan to discredit the Castro regime and create support for military action against Cuba by staging false flag acts of terrorism and developing a communist Cuban terror campaign in the Miami area, in other Florida cities, and even in Washington. Lemnitzer presented the plans to Secretary of Defense Robert McNamara on March 13, 1962. It is unclear how McNamara reacted, but 3 days later President John F. Kennedy told the general that there was no chance that the U.S. would take military action against Cuba. Within a few months, after the refusal to endorse Operation Northwoods, Lemnitzer was denied another term as JCS chairman. In November 1962, Lemnitzer was appointed as commander of U.S. European Command, and as Supreme Allied Commander Europe of the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, NATO. His time in command saw the Cyprus crisis of 1963 to 1964 and the withdrawal of NATO forces from France in 1966. As of 2015, Lemnitzer is the only chairman of the Joint Chiefs to hold another U.S. military command after his term as chairman ended, rather than retiring. Lemnitzer retired from the military in July 1969. His 14-year tenure as a 4-star general on active duty is the longest in the history of the U.S. Army. He was the only person in history to serve as Army Chief of Staff, Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, and Supreme Allied Commander for NATO. In 1975, President Gerald Ford appointed Lemnitzer to the Commission on CIA Activities within the United States, aka the Rockefeller Commission, to investigate whether the Central Intelligence Agency had committed acts that violated U.S. laws, and allegations that E. Howard Hunt and Frank Sturgis, of Watergate fame, were involved in the assassination of John F. Kennedy. Lemnitzer died on November 12, 1988, and is buried in Arlington National Cemetery. His wife, Catherine Tryon Lemnitzer, 1901 to 1994, is buried with him. Lemnitzer was played by John Seitz in the 1991 Oliver Stone film, JFK. Lemnitzer was awarded numerous military awards and decorations, including but not limited to foreign decorations. Lemnitzer was a Freemason.